They said strength had a look, a voice, a gender, a face, but then someone like her walked in and shattered every illusion. 25 June 2025 will not be a normal day. Why? Because people across the globe will wake up and finally understand that power isn't about domination, it's about self-mastery. We often hear stories about warriors, heroes, fighters, but few stories are about quiet power. Fewer still are lived examples. Evy Poumpouras didn't just wear a badge. She carried weight not in her hand, but in her spirit. The world never handed her a stage. She built it brick by brick with resilience, intelligence, and unshakable poise. What happens when the world underestimates someone? Unshakable strength isn't something you're born with, it's something life carves into your soul through pain, persistence, and pressure. It's not loud, it doesn't beg for attention, and it never needs to explain itself. It's quiet, often invisible to the outside world, but it roars in the decisions you make, the storms you withstand, and the moments you choose grace over chaos. Unshakable strength is built when everything in you wants to give up. But you stand up anyway, not because you feel strong, but because you refuse to let weakness win. It's in the mornings you rise when your heart is heavy, and no one notices the battle it took just to get out of bed. It's in the silence you keep when you could lash out, the dignity you hold when you could destroy, and the patience you summon when all you feel is rage. Unshakable strength is knowing you can but choosing not to. It's power under control, emotion held with wisdom, and truth carried with grace. The strongest people are not the loudest. They're the ones who endure quietly, love deeply, and move forward fearlessly. There are days that break you down, piece by piece, and yet something inside whispers, not yet. That voice inside you, that's your strength, not the absence of fear or struggle, but the courage to keep walking with trembling legs. Strength isn't always a scream. Sometimes it's the breath you take before you speak, the restraint you show when they expect a reaction, the love you give even after being broken. That's the kind of strength the world doesn't always recognize, but it's the kind that changes everything. You don't develop unshakable strength in comfort. You build it in the furnace of rejection, disappointment, failure, and heartbreak. Every time someone underestimated you, ignored your worth, or tried to dim your light, a new layer of steel was added to your spirit. Every moment you chose growth over comfort, discipline over desire, silence over drama, you were becoming more powerful than you even knew. Not because life got easier, but because you got harder to break. They don't see the nights you cried and still showed up the next day like nothing was wrong. They don't know how many times you had to swallow your pride just to keep peace. They don't see the weight you carry in your heart while still being someone others lean on. That's your power, your ability to hold it all, to survive it all, and to still give, still care, still show up. Unshakable strength isn't about not feeling pain. It's about never letting it own you. It's found in the woman who rebuilds her life after loss. In the man who chooses honesty when lies would be easier. In the child who keeps dreaming even in broken homes. It's found in the moments where you face fear and do it anyway, not because you aren't scared, but because your purpose is louder than your fear. That's strength, not perfection, not invincibility, but resilience, that unbreakable will to keep moving forward, even if it's inch by inch. The truth is, life will test you, people will betray you, the world will try to define you. But what they can't take is your choice, the choice to rise, the choice to forgive, the choice to speak your truth, the choice to heal. That's what makes you powerful beyond measure. Your strength isn't in what you show the world, it's in what you survive when no one's watching. It's in the battles no one claps for, the healing no one sees, the grace you extend when no one deserves it. That's unshakable. Even on your worst days, you are stronger than you know. The way you carry yourself in moments of chaos, the way you don't let the storm change your soul, that's proof that you've built something eternal inside you. It can't be taught in books, and it can't be stolen by circumstances. It's earned, it's learned, and it's yours. There's a power that comes from knowing you've faced the worst and didn't fall apart, that nothing and no one owns your peace unless you hand it to them, and you've stopped handing it over. They may never say it, but they see it. Your energy, your presence, the way you don't break, the way you've risen again and again. That's the energy of someone unshakable. You don't need to prove anything. You are the proof. Your strength doesn't need validation. It just needs your recognition. Stand tall, not because everything is perfect, but because you're walking through it with fire in your soul and peace in your eyes. That's unshakable. That's you. Your past doesn't disqualify you. It doesn't define your worth, limit your future, or determine the value you bring to the table today. What happened, what you did, what you lost, the moments that broke you, they are parts of your story, not the ending. They are chapters, not the title. You are not the mistakes you made, the wrong turns you took, or the pain you carried. You are who you became because of them, not in spite of them. You are not disqualified. You are equipped. Every scar, every failure, every disappointment added something to your spirit. Perspective, wisdom, depth, grit. The kind of understanding that can't be taught in a classroom or handed down in advice. It has to be lived. You had to go through it to grow through it. And now, here you are, not broken, but built differently. Not bitter, but better. Not disqualified, but more qualified than ever to rise, to lead, to inspire. People may look at your past and think they know your future. Let them. Their judgment is not your destiny. They didn't walk in your shoes, feel your pain, cry your tears, or heal your wounds. They don't know the price you paid for your peace. They see the surface. You know the story. You've earned your strength one hard lesson at a time. You've faced what others run from. You've overcome what was meant to destroy you. You've outgrown places, people, and versions of yourself that you thought you'd never leave. That's not weakness. That's proof you're still becoming. You've made mistake. So what? Who hasn't? Regret is heavy, but it doesn't have to be permanent. You can carry the lesson without the shame. You can forgive yourself, and you must. You're not the same person you were back then. You've changed, you've evolved, you've shed layers and rewritten the way you see the world. The things that once made you feel small now remind you of how far you've come. That's not disqualification, that's transformation. The truth is, your past doesn't make you unworthy. It makes you real, authentic, relatable. It gives you depth in a world that's often shallow. When you speak, your voice carries weight because it's been through something. When you show up, people feel your energy because it's been tested. There's a difference between someone who's read about the storm and someone who's survived it. You've survived it. You've rebuilt from pieces that no one thought could fit again. And yet here you are, whole in ways you never imagined. You don't need to hide what you've been through. You don't need to pretend that every step was perfect. Your past doesn't make you a fraud, it makes you a force. You've lived through nights that felt endless. You've questioned your worth, your purpose, your identity, and you've still shown up, even when your voice trembled and your heart ached. That's courage. That's power. That's why you're still standing, because the past didn't disqualify you. It prepared you. Maybe you've fallen more than once. Maybe you've lost time, relationships, chances. Maybe you've carried guilt or shame longer than you should have. But none of that cancels your potential. None of that erases the light in you. You're still capable, still worthy, still here, and that means something. That means you still have something to give, a story to tell. A purpose to fulfill, a future to create. No matter how messy the journey, you are allowed to start over as many times as it takes. You are not your trauma. You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are the fighter who kept going, the soul who kept believing, the heart that kept loving. You didn't come this far to stop now. You didn't survive all that just to shrink back. Everything that tried to disqualify you didn't realize it was only qualifying you to rise higher, speak louder, and shine brighter. When people ask about your strength, tell them the truth. Tell them you didn't get it from ease. You got it from breaking, healing, rebuilding. You got it from facing darkness and still choosing light. Your past was not the end. It was the classroom, and the version of you standing here now is the result of every painful, powerful, necessary lesson. You didn't come from perfection. You came from perseverance, and that will always be enough. Fear is loud, but courage moves quietly. Fear screams in your ear, creating noise in your head and panic in your chest. It demands attention, floods your thoughts, and convinces you that you're not ready, not enough, not capable. It shows up dressed as logic, disguised as caution, whispering all the worst case scenarios until you freeze, hesitate, or retreat. Fear loves the spotlight. It thrives in chaos, feeds on doubt, and multiplies in uncertainty. But courage doesn't need an audience. Courage doesn't shout. It doesn't need approval, applause, or recognition. It's the silent decision you make when everything inside you wants to give up, but you take one more step anyway. It's the voice that says, I'm scared, but I'm still going. It's found in the moments where your hands shake, your heart races, and your thoughts spiral, but you keep moving forward. That's what courage really is, not the absence of fear, but the quiet defiance of it. You won't always see courage coming. It doesn't arrive like a storm, it rises like a sunrise, gradually, steadily, without warning. It happens in the person who wakes up and decides to try again after failing. In the one who chooses vulnerability in a world that prizes masks. In the soul who dares to heal instead of hiding their wounds. Courage is often unrecognized because it doesn't perform, it acts. It doesn't wait for permission, it chooses. It doesn't ask, what if I fall? It whispers, what if I fly? Fear will convince you to shrink, to wait, to stay silent. It'll offer comfort while stealing growth. It's loud for a reason. It wants to drown out your truth, but courage is persistent. It doesn't yell back, it simply holds its ground. It shows up in your eyes, in your posture, in the calm steadiness of someone who knows their worth even when the world questions it. That quiet confidence is louder than any fear ever could be. You'll see fear at every crossroad, when you speak up, when you walk away, when you begin something new. It will always try to stop you with its noise, but courage doesn't debate fear. It just moves quietly, deliberately, and that's why it wins. The strongest people aren't the loudest in the room. They're the ones who listen, observe, process, and then act. With grace, with strength, without making a scene. Courage is in the parent raising their child while silently battling their own storms. It's in the student who shows up for the test, even though anxiety is screaming. It's in the person who sets boundaries after years of people pleasing. It's in the heart that chooses to love again after being broken. None of these moments come with flashing lights or standing ovations. But they are some of the bravest acts you'll ever witness. Fear tells you to prepare for the worst, to expect disappointment, to avoid risk. But courage is that soft nudge that says, you were made for more than this. It won't push you, it'll walk beside you. It won't silence fear completely, but it will speak louder where it counts, in your choices, in your resilience, in your decision to rise again and again. The world often celebrates grand gestures, but the real heroes are the ones who battle things no one sees. The ones who hold it together when everything is falling apart. The ones who stay kind when it would be easier to harden. The ones who keep showing up when quitting would be justified. These people are not fearless. They are quietly courageous. And they don't need to prove it to anyone. Their actions speak for themselves. There will be moments in life when fear feels like a wave crashing over everything you've built. But remember, waves are loud, and yet it's the shoreline that always stands. Be the shoreline, be steady. Let fear be noisy, but don't let it steer the ship. Let courage be your anchor, not dramatic, not flashy, just unbreakable. The truth is, some of the most courageous things you'll ever do will happen in silence. No spotlight, no one watching, just you choosing to rise when it's easier to fall, choosing to stay soft in a hard world, choosing to be real in a time of filters. That's courage, not a roar, not a battle cry, just the quiet, consistent act of choosing yourself over your fears. Again and again and again, the power of emotional control can change the game. It's not about denying what you feel, it's about not letting what you feel control what you do. In a world that constantly pokes at your nerves, triggers your past, and tries to manipulate your reactions, being able to hold your center is one of the greatest forms of strength. When you control your emotions, you control your energy. When you control your energy, you control the room. That's how the game shifts, not through volume, but through mastery. Not through dominance, but through discipline. It's easy to react. It's easy to let anger take over, to let sadness break you, or to let anxiety paralyze you. But emotional control isn't about pretending those emotions don't exist. It's about knowing when and how to let them move through you without letting them drive your decisions. Emotional control gives you the ability to pause, to breathe, to assess, and to respond with intention instead of impulse. And that 1-second pause, that can change everything. It can save a relationship, salvage your reputation, protect your peace, and guard your future. People will test you. Circumstances will frustrate you. Life will not always go according to your plan, but emotional control gives you the space to pivot instead of panic. It gives you clarity in chaos. The person who can stay calm while others spiral holds a unique kind of power, the power to observe, to analyze, to act with purpose. That power isn't about being cold or detached. It's about choosing response over reaction, presence over pressure. The truth is, emotions are powerful messengers, but terrible masters. If you let them lead every decision, you'll find yourself trapped in cycles of regret and self-sabotage. But when you use them as signals, tools to understand yourself and the situation, you become more than just emotionally intelligent. You become emotionally strategic. You learn when to speak and when to be silent, when to act and when to wait, when to walk away and when to lean in. That's not weakness, that's emotional maturity. That's control, and control is power. Imagine a moment where someone tries to provoke you. They want a reaction. They want you to snap, to lose your cool, to match their chaos. But you don't. You hold your line, you breathe, you respond, not with aggression, but with clarity. That's unsettling to those who operate in emotional dysfunction. That's the game changer. Because when you don't give away your emotional power, you don't give away your peace, your dignity, or your influence. In business, relationships, leadership, and even daily life, emotional control gives you the edge. The person who can think clearly under pressure, communicate calmly during conflict, and make decisions without emotional distortion is always one step ahead. You don't have to be the loudest in the room. You don't have to dominate with words. Sometimes the most powerful presence is the one that listens deeply, speaks thoughtfully, and stays grounded when others can't. It's also about protecting your energy. Emotional control means choosing where to place your attention, what to feed with your time, and who gets access to your emotional space. Not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves your explanation. You learn to protect your peace like a boundary, not a privilege. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to correct every lie. Emotional control teaches you that silence can be a strategy, and restraint can be louder than rage. This kind of control is cultivated, not inherited. It comes from knowing yourself, your triggers, your wounds, your tendencies. It comes from choosing growth over ego, healing over drama, understanding over judgment. It comes from doing the inner work, from facing the hard truths about yourself, not to shame yourself, but to set yourself free from being ruled by emotion. You start realizing that your peace is more important than being right. Your clarity is more valuable than temporary satisfaction. When you own your emotions, you own your life. You stop outsourcing your power to the opinions, behaviors, or mistakes of others. You stop being a puppet pulled by the strings of every mood swing or external conflict. Instead, you become grounded, steady, focused. You begin to lead yourself, and through that, you gain the ability to lead others. Emotional control isn't about suppressing your truth, it's about elevating your response. It's where wisdom, power, and self-respect meet. And when you reach that place, the game doesn't just change. You start playing by a whole new set of rules. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. Real power doesn't scream. It doesn't boast or demand attention. It moves with quiet confidence, speaks with calm authority, and leads without forcing. In a world that often confuses volume with influence and noise with presence, it's easy to believe that being powerful means being the loudest voice in the room. But true power doesn't need to be seen to exist. It doesn't need to dominate a conversation to make an impact. It resides in composure, consistency, and the ability to act with intention when others are consumed by emotion or ego. There is immense strength in silence, in choosing not to react just to prove a point, in observing before speaking, in letting others show who they are without rushing to expose them. Quiet people are often underestimated. But what many fail to realize is that quiet does not mean passive. It means measured. It means thoughtful. It means controlled. And there's nothing more powerful than someone who is in control of themselves. You don't need to shout to be heard. The words that echo the longest are often the ones spoken with clarity, not volume. Think about the people who have influenced your life the most. it's likely not the ones who yelled the loudest, but the ones whose actions, words, or presence carried weight. Power is not always about commanding the room, it's about carrying a presence that others can feel without needing to say a word. There's a quiet kind of power in setting boundaries, in saying no without explanation. In walking away from chaos instead of engaging in it. You don't need to prove your worth through confrontation. You don't need to explain your decisions to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The strongest people aren't those who shout the loudest. They're the ones who walk away from noise with their dignity intact. That is power, self-respect over attention, peace over drama. Stillness is intimidating to those who thrive on control. When someone expects you to react and you don't, you disrupt the game, you shift the dynamic. That's the power of being calm in a storm. That's the strength of not being easily provoked. It makes people uncomfortable, not because you are weak, but because your silence reveals their lack of control. The one who doesn't flinch under pressure, who doesn't beg for validation, who doesn't crumble when criticized, those are the ones who hold real power. Quiet power isn't about hiding. It's about choosing when to shine and when to stay still. It's the wisdom to know that not every battle deserves your sword, not every insult deserves your response, and not every opinion deserves your energy. There's power in letting things pass, in rising above, in staying focused on your path when distractions surround you. The one who stays grounded while everyone else is reactive is the one who sees clearly. You don't need to constantly post, speak, or explain to prove that you're progressing. Your growth doesn't need to be loud to be real. The seeds you're planting in silence will bloom in ways that will speak for themselves. Let your success whisper until it roars. Let your results make the noise. Let your actions speak so loudly that no voice, no criticism, and no assumption can drown them out. There's also great influence in listening. Power isn't just in the ability to speak, it's in the ability to hear what others miss. When you're quiet, you observe more. You see the patterns, the energy, the truths that loud voices often miss. You gather wisdom. You move with strategy. You build strength not in being everywhere, but in being exactly where you're needed, fully present and unshakable. You don't need to be center stage to lead. You don't need to raise your voice to raise a standard. Leadership isn't always about commanding. It's about influencing, and influence doesn't need volume. It needs consistency, clarity, and conviction. The most powerful movements have often started in silence. The most powerful people are often the ones who let their presence speak before they even say a word. Being loud may capture attention, but being steady earns respect. Let others chase the spotlight. You focus on the mission. Let others try to impress. You stay rooted in purpose, because in the end, power is not about how loud you are. It's about how deeply you move the world around you without ever needing to raise your voice. 25 June 2025 is the day to choose. Stay small or step into the version of yourself you've always known existed deep down. This is the moment life stops waiting for you to be ready. This is the moment your excuses run out and your reflection demands honesty. You've been shrinking, doubting, overthinking, underestimating your power, and playing safe for too long. But safe hasn't satisfied your soul. Comfort hasn't fulfilled your calling, and fear has never given you peace. Staying small may feel familiar, but it's not where your greatness lives. It's not where your spirit breathes. You weren't created to hide. Today is not just another date. It's a line in the sand, a spiritual wake-up call disguised as a Wednesday. Life will never be the same after today, not because the world changes, but because you decide to. You decide that staying small is too painful, that playing invisible is exhausting, that being what others want has stolen enough of your fire. You decide that you're no longer watering yourself down for anyone's comfort, no longer editing your truth, no longer asking permission to be everything you were born to be. Staying small doesn't just keep you from success, it keeps you from yourself. It keeps you repeating the same cycles, attracting the same energy, entertaining the same distractions. It makes you seek validation from people who don't even see you clearly. It tricks you into believing that playing it safe will protect you, when in reality it robs you of the one thing you truly need: Freedom, the freedom to be real, to be bold, to be loud with your purpose and unapologetic with your light. How much longer will you keep putting your dreams on hold because you're afraid of judgment? How much more of your life will be spent waiting for the perfect time, the perfect version of you? There is no perfect time. There is only now, and this day, this one right here, is divine. It's a crossroad. It's not asking you to be fearless. It's asking you to be faithful. Faithful to the voice inside you that's tired of being silenced. Faithful to the strength you've ignored while pretending you're not capable. Faithful to the vision that visits you late at night. The one you've dismissed too many times. Staying small feels easier because it asks nothing new from you. No risks, no failures, no growth, but it also gives you nothing real in return. No expansion, no alignment, no impact. Greatness will always ask more of you. It will ask you to face the discomfort, walk through the unknown, and rise in ways you never thought you could. But it will also reward you with peace, with power, with purpose, with people who see you as you are and love you for it. You are not too late. You are not too broken. You are not too inexperienced, too damaged, too anything. You are enough right now as you are, and if the fear of failure is still holding you hostage, ask yourself this. What if you don't fail? What if it works? What if this is the moment your whole life pivots, simply because you decided to believe in yourself more than your doubt? What if the risk you're afraid to take is the very thing that sets your soul on fire? 25 June 2025 is not waiting for your permission. It's already here. It's staring you in the face and asking, who are you going to be now? Are you going to stay in the shadows, or are you going to step into your light? Are you going to keep playing the role others assign to you, or are you finally ready to write your own? You don't have to roar. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the first step, boldly, imperfectly, but fully. This is the day you stop apologizing for dreaming big. This is the day you look fear in the eye and walk forward anyway. This is the day you stop shrinking into spaces you've already outgrown, because staying small is no longer an option. Not after everything you've survived, not after everything you've learned, not after everything you still have to become. You are here, you are ready, and the choice is yours.